sell lies to the people who want the truth. To get by in life, live a happy, healthy, fulfilled life, be honest and sell your honesty, and sell information, or honest product or an honest service, honestly, to the people who want the truth. And you will struggle if you try to be honest to people who don't care really to know the facts, the figures, the things that are important to creating the perception of what your product or service is in an honest sense. Meaning, to create a level of to become more successful, in a sense, you must really only do the middle path. To do anything else, you will never live a fulfilled life lying to people. It will never fulfill you. You always look at the things around you as just things. You won't see the beauty behind how those things came to be. When you look back at your journey in life and you think about the conversations you've had with people, the things you've said to them, the promises you've made, if you lie every single time, you are looking back at every promise being unfulfilled. And although you can keep a promise to yourself, which is to keep doing those things in hope that you will be successful, can you ever say that will really fulfill you? To live fulfilled, to live happy, to live peaceful, to live calm, we must do things that make that so. And when you lie to people, when you are dishonest, when you prioritize yourself in conversations, when you put yourself before anybody else in the moment, it's very hard to feel fulfilled, because essentially you're just draining and taking away energy from somebody else. And although you may think that in some way it is fulfilling because you withdraw someone else's energy and you seemingly take it into yourself, this is not really the case, because not everybody is as perceptive as you may think. Some people, you could do somebody's eyelashes, they could be terrible, but because you've had confidence and enthusiasm in the way that you've said it, because again, I think it's 75% of how you say something accounts for its importance, as opposed to, I think 10% is what you say, and then forget the other percentage, maybe it's 15% is what you say, meaning that 10% is... I would ask yourself a very important question, which is, what kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live a life where you just spend your time lying to people, being dishonest, not really making the effort to make the cut, doing things that aren't going to put you forward, taking advantage of people, and yes, you can make money from it, a lot of money. If you I used to, and it was only for a couple of days because I didn't like the environment, and to be honest, I wouldn't have lasted that long anyway. Not just given the environment, but given what you had to do. It's very high pressure selling tactics. I was selling forex, quite literally foreign exchange, so selling the service of buying and selling another currency for businesses. But again, it was only for a couple of days, and you're dialing out to like 200-300 people a day at a minimum, and your pitch is the same, everything is script written, because in sales that's how it works. Well, when you get to it depends. I mean, honest, real sales, which is something that I find very important in life, and which is, let me expand and contextualize it for you. Real sales is demonstrating value and being able to present that value in a way that's very easy for somebody else to understand, so much so that they are able to make the decision by themselves to purchase from you. And I think if you have a product or service you really, really believe in, and you should, in your whatever job that you have, we're always buying or selling something in most jobs, whether it's an idea or the product or service, quite literally. We're selling to ourselves all the time. As soon as you wake up and you get out of bed, you're selling to yourself, is it really worth it? Sometimes. If it's a cold morning, it's quite difficult, you have to fight your blanket to try and get out. You're still selling something. You're selling yourself the idea that, if you weren't doing that, then, the result would be you wouldn't be able to go to work, go to school, whatever it is, you wouldn't be able to get on with your day, and you wouldn't be able to commit yourself to doing actions that are going to get you some results. So it's much better to get out of bed and get on and start your day and do the things that you know that you need to do, so you can enjoy life and do things. But but this all comes again down to the idea of being honest about what it is you're trying to sell. And again, you'll have a much better time being honest about the product or service or the idea that you're trying to sell to somebody, because without the energy, without the honesty, if somebody is unable to come to the decision that they want to purchase from you, you are there to help them. But if they're unable to do it, it means you just haven't explained it well enough to them, and that means you don't understand the product or the service yourself. Or it also means you may not have developed the ability and the skill necessary to communicate the benefits of said product and service. Meaning you have work to do. It means you need to practice. It means you need to either get on the phone, go to people, and spend more time understanding the nature of human psychology in real world, not just in a book. Actually talking to people, being interested in people. If you're not somebody who's interested in people, there's lots more products or services that you can sell that aren't as heavily relied on in terms of communication. When you're selling something, typically the higher the price of the item or service you're selling, the higher capacity for communication is required to sell that product or service. So if you're selling something that's quite low cost, you shouldn't need a huge understanding of human psychology, because typically, the very basic fundamental things that we need in life are quite cheap. Than housing, of course, that goes without saying. But when we talk about things like food, cosmetics,
Yep.
fuel, these kind of things, everyday items, they're not particularly expensive. Of course, everything is relative, and it's a privilege for me to be able to say that, considering the rest of the world and how other people live life. But as long as you are living within your means, meaning that you generate a certain amount of money, monthly, yearly, daily, whatever it is, and you do not exceed the income that you generate, then, and you live within this bound or these boundaries, then the theory goes that those items relative to you and your life are not going to be high cost. Because again, high cost, what does that mean? If you're very wealthy, it's going to mean a lot more than it will be for somebody who doesn't have a lot of money. So as long as you find your boundary and you live within those means, then the items won't be necessarily super high cost. And because of this, the more that you fit within these boundaries, the better the cycle will be. So sometimes it's best to do your best to live within that. The more relatable you are to somebody, the better the connection and stronger the connection will be between you and that person.
Yeah, dude.
This is why you become friends with people. You're not going to be friends with somebody unless it's maybe circumstantial, where you meet and an event happens and then something, you connect through that event. But even then, this is relatability. So, the more that you know something and the more that other person knows of that same something, the higher capacity there is for you to develop a connection with them. And this is why you have strong relationships with people. Not necessarily just boyfriend, girlfriend, husband and wife type. Whether it's a friendship, whatever kind of relationship, relationships come from relatability. You need to be able to look at the same idea and something similar towards the idea. And the more similar you think towards the idea, the stronger the relatability factor is, and the more you will relate to each other. And essentially, the more understanding you have about the other person, because if you imagine people just as we're gonna dehumanize it a little bit now, but this is just for the sake of the concept, so it's very easy to imagine. If you imagine everybody as a very simple vessel, okay, or an empty sheet, blank canvas, and you put in an idea. Let's say, for example, they like flowers, and you like flowers. Now, the more you know about flowers, the more they know about flowers. There's already a capacity there. Level 0 is that you know nothing, and they know nothing about this thing. So there's no way to relate to them, because you don't know about the thing and they don't know about the thing. So there's nothing to draw connection from. Level 1 could be you know about the thing, or they know about the thing, and the other person doesn't know a lot about it, but they don't know. Yeah, but the other person doesn't know a lot about it. So the other one person knows more, the other person knows less. Level 2 can be that both people know the same amount. Level 3 is that you are both interested and like this thing, or have a strong dislike for this thing. So you relate to each other even more so. Level 4, level 5, whatever levels you want to count, it's, let's not focus on levels too much. But the idea is, the more you share the same opinion about this particular thing, the stronger the connection will be between you and that person. Now, what you can do, and this is normally done in high pressure cells, or people who they want to take advantage of other people, they will just simply be dishonest and say, yeah, of course, no, I've heard about this, I like that, oh, this is cool, this is whatever, and they know nothing, and they kind of just go with the conversation and see if the other person actually tries to call them out. And that's actually what I like to do sometimes. If I feel somebody is trying to pull one over me and be dishonest to me, I'll say, okay, so have you lied this thing for long? How long have you lied this thing? Do you know this? Do you know that? Oh, well, what do you think about when this happened? Just, very simple questions like this, and you will see. That's why there's beauty in simplicity, because you cannot get away from not being able to answer a question like that. They will either respond with something like, oh, well, I haven't actually heard about that, or, and it could be the case, they could be being honest, and they could still have an interest. It's not, everything I'm saying is not word for word here. Well, it depends on the context, of course, and that's also another skill. You need to contextualize things. Anyway,
I don't want to.
when we talk about sales, we talk about life. Life is a giant sell, life is a pitch. You're always trying to sell yourself an idea of whether this is okay or not, until you reach an equilibrium and you get experience. It's a lot about that story, with King Arthur, and or when it comes to the story of the prodigal son. You have to leave where it is you find where you have advantage sometimes. You need to lose things sometimes to understand what it is that you had. And yeah, this is a very key thing, and I think if you go through this in life, generally you will become over time more appreciative of the things you attain. So it means you need to struggle, you need to go through quite a lot of loss, and try not to feel too bad about things when things don't go your way. It's all relative at the end of the day. There are things sometimes I think, wow, like I'll be in the moment and I think, yeah, but that's not a good situation to be in, like I'm pretty screwed. And then over time, everything seems to be okay. And I'll look back, actually, I do this all the time. When I go through a situation where, oh, this is not a good situation, like this is a really, really bad situation, I'll think back to it's probably not possible to think of all the times I don't do this, but what I do is I'll think back to the time, or I'll think back to the fact that I acknowledge that I have been through this situation before. And the acknowledgement that I have been through this situation before, where I basically say to myself, wow, wait, this has happened already. Not the exact same thing, but I've already felt what it's like to be really embarrassed, or lose something and be hurt, be betrayed, to be disrespected, to feel angry about something, or to worry about the next day, to be completely anxious about it. And it always helps when I think in that moment, when I'm going through the feeling of these things, is to simply say, well, I've been through something that has made me feel the same way. And just before this thing happened, I was okay. So, time is the greatest healer. You give time to anything, it will bring out the truth of that situation. And the truth naturally always seems to be things always just kind of work out. And the explanation for this seemingly is, everything averts to, or is attracted towards, an equilibrium. Everything wants to stay in balance. And, the future would not be as equal as the past if the past was favored always in the present moment. So you must always equally look towards the future as you do at the past to understand yourself in the present, and that way you can create some sort of an idea or vision as to what you want to achieve with your life and do things and move forward. And if you're somebody who has everything that they need, then you can still remain in equilibrium, because you can look back at the past being happy and look at the future knowing that it will be the same. So
To the bad.
yes.